Happy Mother's Day and welcome to Bridgewood Online. I'm Pastor Sean, and it is an absolutely beautiful, sunny Mother's Day morning. Pastor Sue, our Steps pastor, is coming in just a moment to share with us an amazing Mother's Day message that is going to build our mothers up and encourage them today. Before she comes, why don't you take a look at bridgewoodchurch.com/info for everything that's going on around here for you and your family. Also, hit like, hit share, hit subscribe, and let's get this word out to the community and to the world around us. And don't forget, there are multiple ways that you can give, that you can support everything that we are doing here at Bridgewood Church. And so, without any further ado, here is Pastor Sue Markey.
Let's give it up for our moms. Yeah. Oh, man. Yes. Well, good morning, beautiful moms, and all of you who came with these beautiful moms. And all of our moms who are watching online, we love you so much. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. What a special day. I am so thankful to be able to be here to celebrate with you. Thank you, Pastor Kurt, for inviting me to. I've been looking forward to this day, and I've been asking God if he would just meet with us today. My name is Sue. I'm one of the pastors, as you've heard, and I've been here for 20 years. I can't even believe it'll be 20 years in August, and it has been such a huge part of my life. My husband Jim and I, we started off with Pastor Kurt and Christy when they were fresh out of Bible college, taking their first pastoring role as youth pastors, and they invited us to be part of their team. And I have to stop and say one thing. There has never been anyone in my life that has poured more into me to help me become who I am. Yeah, I know you feel the same way about them. Love them so much. They invited us to be part of their team, and it was during that time, it was over 30 years ago, you guys, that the dream to plant Bridgewood Church began with us, them, Pastor Sean and Lisa, Brandon and Christy Heilig, a few other couples. We moved our families across town to be here, and what a ride this has been. It's just been amazing. And let me tell you, the staff that I get to work with every day, second to none. They are so amazing, and they feel like family because, you know, when you're in the trenches together and you work hard and you play hard and you laugh and all of that stuff, it makes you tight, right? You know. Hopefully you have those people in your life too, but they're my people. I serve here as the Steps pastor, which means that I oversee any area where people take growth steps in their faith. And I mainly teach in our growth classes, and it's my passion. I've had several of you in those classes, and you know it's my passion. And I feel like I'm so blessed to be able to get to do what I love. Jim and I have 3 beautiful daughters. They're amazing, right? They're more than amazing. Oh gosh, thank you. They're amazing, Shannon, Amanda, and Samantha, and we're incredibly proud of the women that they are. And they've grown our family. We got 2 awesome son-in-laws that we're proud of, but come on, look at them grandbabies. We have 5 of the most perfect grandbabies, and we got 1 more coming in 2 months. I love being a mom. I love being a mother-in-law. I love being a grandma. Motherhood can be like the greatest job in the world, but it can also be the most difficult job, right? Like, it can hold the greatest joy, it can hold the most pain, and I don't think that there's any other area in life where you can feel more like a success when things are going right and more like a failure when things are going wrong, right? Yep, lots of nodding heads. You know what I'm talking about. You know, I look at this picture and I feel rich. But if only every one of these days looked like this picture. That's our hope, right? We hope for so much. 2 weeks ago, Pastor Kurt started off a series called Unshakable Hope. Guys, if you've missed it, catch it on podcast. It's awesome. And don't worry, part 3 is coming next week when you come back. But that's our greatest hope as moms, that we'll have all of our family close to us, that everybody's healthy and happy and loving Jesus, and we have everything that we need provided for us, and we're all safe from the dangers that are out there. When it feels like that's happening, it brings peace to our soul. And peace in our soul is what we crave, because what happens if the picture isn't perfect? We know that Mother's Day holds a lot of emotion. Good, bad, sad. Our staff has been praying for everyone, because we know sometimes the picture that we've dreamed of looks different. Right? So if you're here, you're facing those tough emotions, just know that we've prayed over you and we've asked God's presence to be here. But today can be a step forward for us too, because as Pastor Kurt said, this message is for everyone, not just moms, even though I'm focusing on moms. When our picture isn't perfect and our dreams don't match our reality, our hope can take a hit or many hits. And when that happens, that can begin to turn into despair. I had one dream and one dream only when I was growing up. And that is that I would have a whole household filled with children that I could just pour all of my love into, that I could give them a life that they felt safe, that they felt cherished, that they felt valued. And in my dream, my home would never be broken. Spoiler alert, my hope would take many hits. You see, it was before I was born that my dad left my mom. And she was young. And my rock star mom, she had to go back to work and work long hours so she could put a roof over our head. And so she had to hand her newborn baby to the neighbor, night and day. I was there so much I began calling them Mommy and Daddy, if you can imagine how that must have tore her heart out. I think I was about 4 years old when my friend's father began to sexually molest me. And then it was the boys in the neighborhood. When I turned 5, my mom remarried, and I finally got a daddy. I was so thrilled. He even adopted me. But that was short-lived, because even though he tried hard, he just didn't know how to be a dad, and I irritated him. And so a lot of verbal abuse came my way. And how many of you know when you're 5 years old and that barrage hits you, it starts forming who you are? But it was the summer that I was out of 6th grade when my purity was violently ripped from me by a gang in our neighborhood. I didn't know it. I was young. We lived in a neighborhood that was very rough, and it had multiple gangs. And that started me down a life of heavy drinking, drugs, violence, all the things you can imagine, just out of 6th grade. And that's a sad tale. That's a sad tale to tell you, but maybe it helps you to understand my past so that you can understand the passion that I have today to help people know that God loves you. He loves you. He cares about you. He can transform a life no matter what you have gone through. But mainly, I tell you, because even though those were hard things, in the middle of those hard things was something wonderful. It was something that felt like it was beyond myself, that carried me forward, that never let me give up, that made me keep going forward. And I know now that it was a tiny seed of faith. Through all of those tough things, there was a faith inside of me that felt like there was something better out there for me, and that if I would keep searching for it, if I didn't give up, that I would find it. I knew it 100%. I, at that time, did not see it as a faith that was pointing me toward God, because that seed hadn't been watered yet. But God knew. God knew. Faith is what I want to talk to you about. Well, I don't want to talk to you about it. I have to talk to you about it, because talking about it is not the same thing as having it. It's not the same thing as having it. Faith is more than a thing that we have or a thing that we think. Faith is a thing that we do. And faith can be hard when the picture isn't perfect, when your dreams don't match your reality. And as moms, faith is needed as we live between the life that we've planned and the one that we're living. And we use the word faith a lot in church. It's used a lot in the Bible too. If my research is right, over 200 times in the New Testament. And almost every one of those instances points to a person's actions. And I think that can be a common misconception, because maybe you, like I used to, tend to think of faith as a thing that we think, or a thing that we have versus a thing that we do. So what is faith according to God? Because really that's all that matters, right? There's a famous verse in Hebrews 11. Maybe you know it. Maybe this is the first time you're hearing it. Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance in what we do not see. So this verse gives us two words about faith. And so I wanted to study them for how they were written. The first one is confidence, and that means a steadfastness of mind, courage, firm trust. It's a faith in our thinking. And the next one is assurance, which means proof or conviction, and that's faith in our action. So God is saying that faith is both of these things together. Faith that he is who he says he is, that his promises for me are true, that he's working behind the scenes at all times on my benefit, with proof on my part by the actions that I take, proving that I actually believe those things, right? Faith is the confidence and assurances in the promises of God with actions that prove it. Confidence and assurance in the unknown future of our child. It can be one of the biggest struggles that we have as moms, because our children have our hearts. We want to protect them at all costs. So maybe we start trying to control the outcome. Maybe we try to plan out their whole life so that we have the assurance that they're going to be awesome, right? But if you've been a mom for any length of time, you already know we can't control everything they're going to go through, no matter how much that we try. So how do we have faith in those unknown moments of parenting? There's a story in the Bible of a mom who had to have faith in something that she couldn't see. Her story is found in Exodus chapter 2, and as soon as I say her child's name, many of you will already start thinking of all of the great things that he would one day do. But before there were any great things, there was first a mom and a baby. A mom who had hopes and dreams for her child, just like you and I do. Only her child was born during a time of opposition. Her child was born during a time that for him to live would risk his mother's life and his own. Her child was born when he shouldn't have survived. And so here we find this mother pregnant with this child. We read this story in Exodus 2:2. The woman conceived and bore a son, and she saw that he was a fine child. Don't you love when God pulls back the curtain a little bit and gives us glimpses to see this mom's reaction the first time she sees her baby? Every mom here knows that feeling. I remember looking at every one of my daughters in the eye going, she's so special. And so this is where we find Moses' mom. Right? Even though he's just a baby, she sees him through eyes of hope and potential. Right? And she wants to protect him at all costs. But she's facing a real problem because the king of the land, Pharaoh, is trying to wipe out the Israelites. And she's an Israelite, and so is he. Right? Much like what we're seeing in Russia today, going through trying to wipe out a people group, not caring how many they murder, even if it's innocent children. So Jochebed, Moses' mom, she does what any of us mothers would do at a time like that. She hides her child. She hides her child until she comes to a place where she realizes she can hide him no longer. When she could hide him no longer, she built him a basket made of bulrushes and daubed it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child in it and placed it among the reeds by the river bank. There will come a moment where your parenting will take you to a place where you have to take what God has entrusted to you and place it on the water. Right? There's going to come a moment that will eventually call you to let go of the very thing that you do not want to let go of. Right? And place it on the water and then have faith in the God who controls that water with the very thing that you feel is yours. I'm certain she did not want to let him go. I know she had more in mind for her child. Right? This had to be the hardest thing that she had ever done. Come on, just take a second and imagine with me what her thoughts were as she carried that basket out onto the water and placed it on the reeds, looking down at that baby, and then turning around and walking away. She had to pray for something she couldn't see and have faith in an outcome that she didn't know would happen. I've had many moments where fear has wanted to overtake me and in my children. I've had dangerous moments where they were placed in situations, very dangerous situations that I had no control over. While I was pregnant with two of my daughters, 2 different times there were health crises. And I've been there holding a daughter when her world shattered, her young husband dead, her dreams smashed to pieces. I've had so many moments where I faced pain and struggle, where I just didn't know what to do next. I felt like a failure and I felt broken. I had a hope and a dream for my family, but reality kept knocking on the door for what I feared for them. And the question in that moment becomes, how do you put faith into action during the moments that hold your greatest fears? When it comes to our children, you and I have to be fully convinced that God has his part and we have our part. Faith becomes action when we know what is our part and what is God's part. Moses came with a purpose and a destiny. He came with a God plan. And what was unexpected to her was not unexpected to God. He had a rescue plan already in place for him, right? And she played a huge part in that. She had to let go. And that was a big moment in Moses' life. The day that his mom let go and placed him on the water, right? Placed him into the destiny that God had prepared for him. She had such a brave kind of faith, the kind of faith that knew when it was time to let go and place him on the water. And some of you here right now need to understand that there are things when it comes to your child and to your life that you will need to place on the water. And I love that it says that when Moses' mom realized it was time to place him on the water, that the next line doesn't read, so she just threw him in, or she pushed him in. It says that she placed him in. And that gives me a visual of a mom who has an inner sense of peace and a faith in a God that she cannot see. Placing speaks of precision. Placing speaks of like a definite decision on her part that she made. And so what she did was she said, I'm going to place you, but before I do, I'm going to do something. I'm going to build a basket of faith. So she got her tar, she got her pitch, she waterproofed it, and she started building that basket, and it was a basket of faith. Our job is to build baskets in which to place those that God has entrusted to us. When we build our basket, we've done our part, right? You see, God did not ask us to control the water. Just build the basket, right? And it's never too late to start. For me, I was 28 and I had 2 small children. I had just gone through a very difficult divorce. And I have to tell you, it was at that moment that I came to the end of myself. Came to the end of me trying to do life on my own. I was done, broken, had it. And that's the exact moment that God reached out his hand to me and he offered me a new life. And you better believe I grabbed on with both hands like I had won the lottery. And I did. I won the lottery. I understand now that that tiny seed of faith that was there when I was growing up had been being watered by God all along, right? I just didn't know it at that time. And at the exact moment, the only moment that I would accept it, that seed sprang into life. And you know what? I was all in. Right away, I started taking classes. I took notes during the sermons. I started volunteering. I found a mentor to help me understand when I was trying to study my Bible. I was just all in. I wanted to learn every single thing I could about this God that gave me so much. I didn't know it. I was actually at that moment starting to gather the materials to build my basket. What I needed to do after that was learn how to put my faith into action. I think famous author and speaker Priscilla Shirer captures it best when she said, faith is when we act like God is telling us the truth. Moses' mom acted like God was telling her the truth. The future of her child was grim. It took enormous courage to put a baby in a basket and place him on the water. She did her part and trusted God to do his. And here's a truth that will never, ever change. God will always do his part. Always. It's who he is. He asks us to have faith in that, right? It's just that his part might look different than what you and I have in our mind. Yeah. And it might be that way because he knows what's best for us. He sees our life from beginning to end. He knows exactly what we need, when we need it, at the exact right time. I asked my daughter if I could share this story with you. I once had a daughter that I had to put in a basket and place on the water. She was a young adult, and she grew up in church. But because of my divorce, because of that other family that comes with divorce, she was exposed and influenced heavily with things that would pull her away from her faith. Her eternity was more important to Jim and I than anything, because life here is short. Eternity is forever. And we knew that a right relationship with Jesus Christ was paramount in her life. And we felt desperate for the sake of her salvation. What should we do? What should we do? I can't tell you the fasting and prayer that went into and the crying out to God to give us wisdom. And he did. I'm not going to share with you what he told us to do, because what he told us to do was specific for our daughter, was specific to her situation. But what I will tell you is that he told us to give her a choice. And that made our knees shake, because we felt like we already knew what she was going to choose. And we were right. She chose to leave our home. I remember what I was doing the day that she left. I was standing in the front yard pretending to pull weeds. I thought maybe if she saw me, would change her mind from leaving. I don't know. She came out of the house carrying a giant teddy bear this big. It was her security blanket from when she was little. Kind of ironic. Carrying security as she's leaving the only security she's ever known. Tears streaming down her face because there's an inner tug of war going on. She knows what's right, yet she's pulled to what's not right for her. But she got in the car and she drove away. I have to be honest with you. I collapsed on the ground in my front yard, sobbing like a wounded animal. I just kept hoping she would change her mind. But the car backed up and drove down the street. And months and months and months and months and months and months would go by. And I was broken. I made myself sick. I felt like a failure. We would have lots of phone calls, and in every one of those phone calls, I tried to weave in how much pain I was in. I tried to weave in, honey, please make different choices. Come home. We love you so much. One day, feeling very broken, I was in a bathroom, looking in a mirror, standing by the sink, looking in a mirror, and I'm crying out to God, why aren't you answering my prayers? And I heard him say to me in a very loving but firm voice, Sue, when are you going to get out of my way? When are you going to stop trying to fix this yourself? When are you going to hand it to me? shock. I thought that's what I had been doing. I never realized that those phone calls were getting in God's way. My mom guilting was getting in God's way. As the bitter realization hit me, let me tell you, that sink had to hold me up. My prayers were not being answered because I was interfering with God's process. I had inadvertently gone back into that water and taken that basket back out and was holding it myself. And as soon as he made that clear to me, I ran back and put my basket back in the water for real this time. I promised him I would stay out of his way, that I would keep my mouth shut. I apologized to him, and I kept my promise. And it would be a long time after that. One time, Pastor Kurt gave a message on prodigals, and me and my husband and my other 2 daughters were sitting in that back row over there, and he invited people to come to the altar to pray for prodigals. And we ran to this altar, and we stood right there. And we locked arms, and we prayed for her like we have never prayed for her, crying out. And we were at a point where we said, God, do whatever it takes, because her eternity is more important to us than even her coming home. Punch her in the gut if you have to. Get her attention whatever way you need to. After praying like that, you are drained. And I'm a pastor, my husband's a pastor, and we know we make lots of conversation afterwards, but we had nothing in us. We walked right from this altar to the front door to leave before anybody could talk to us. And my hand was on the door handle, and my phone rings. And it's her. I answer it, and this noise is coming out of the phone that I can't even decipher what she's saying. She's crying so hard, and I can tell she's asking me something, and I'm like, honey, slow down, I can't understand you. What are you saying? And she said, were you just praying for me? And yes, how could you know that? She said, because God just punched me in the gut. He literally punched her in the gut. She's standing there 1 minute, the next minute all the air leaves her body, and she's doubled over, wondering what just happened to me. And God flooded her mind with the image of us praying at this altar for her. And he said, your family is praying for you. And I want you to know that I love you, and I have a plan, and I have a purpose for your life, and you are not in that right now, but you can be. I love you. Please come back to me. And she said, Mama, can I come home? How long does it take to walk from the altar to the front door before God answered that prayer for us? That God encounter changed everything for her, and he did for her what nobody else could do at the exact moment that she was ready to receive it. It's so hard when there's so much at stake to not try and do God's part for him, right? She found her own faith when I got out of her way. She tried fulfilling her own life, but found that God had a better life for her than she could ever find on her own. It was more than my mama heart could imagine. And the outcome of God's part of the story for Moses' life was more than his mom could imagine either. Because there would come a moment in his future, a defining moment, where he would find himself back at the water again. And this time he wasn't placed on the water. This time he would stand in the water. And he would part that water with a whole generation of people watching him, following him. More than his mama heart could imagine. And that brings me to my final thought on faith. Faith like this brings peace and unexpected beauty, even in the chaos and even in the unknown. I love planting flowers. I have so many flower beds surrounding my home, but there's one section that defies me every year. And no matter what I do, I can't get it to do what I want. So last year, I ripped out every single plant, and I gave them away, and I took out all the dirt, and I put brand new dirt in, and I filled it with rich nutrients. And I took a packet of wildflower seeds, and I sprinkled it along the top, and I said, "You want to be wild, be wild." And then I walked away. I didn't go back and I didn't fuss with it. And guess what happened? Beautiful blooms came up. And I went out and I stared at each one of them, and I considered them a gift that happened when I trusted the good soil that I put in. And then I let God make the beautiful bloom come up without me fussing with it. Throughout my life as a mom, I've thrown out so many seeds of faith, not knowing the outcome. And I look at this picture. He gave me wildflowers. I see daughters who love their families, who pour into other people's lives, who love Jesus with all of their heart, who are making a difference in this world. And my wildflowers have multiplied. And each bloom is so very beautiful. And even though we still have tough moments where I can't see the end like God can, when I have faith that He's doing the underneath work, my soul just sings with peace. It sings with peace. So as we end today, I want to ask you one question. Are you putting your faith into action during the moments in your life that hold your greatest fears? Ladies, when you walked in today, I had you given a packet of wildflower seeds, and I want you to hold them right now in your hands. Take those out and hold those in your hands. And just as Moses' mom placed him on the water, I want you, as you hold these seeds, to place your child, place your situation, place your life into God's hands and commit it to Him, right? And then ask Him how best to act on that faith. We can trust Him for the outcome of our hopes and dreams, right? We can't see the beginning from the end, but He can. And that's an assurance of faith that you and I can hang on to. Pastor Lisa and Gabriella, her daughter, are going to sing, and they're going to sing a song that declares our stance on faith. Our stance during moments of the unknown, where we can't see the beginning from the end. And Mom, I want you to remember that your stance on faith is a seed well planted. May it bloom to beauty in your child.
Thank you, Pastor Sue, for that word today. And you know, moms, I hope that you have been challenged, that you've been encouraged today, because you are amazing and you are what is the glue that holds our families together. And so we love you and we are thankful for you today. Don't forget, you can log on to bridgewoodchurch.com/info for everything that's going on around here for you or your family. So from youngest to oldest, there are ministries and growth classes available that are going to encourage them on their journey of faith. And so would you hop on and check those out today? And as always, you can hit like, hit share, hit subscribe. And then until next week, we love you and we are praying for each and every one of you this week.